Changi Airport received more than 6.16 million passengers in January this year as traffic went up by 13% on year. And to support its workforce to cope with a higher volume of visitors, Changi Airport Group will improve the airside work environment. Now, this includes enhancing and expanding rest areas. Next year, a second cafe will be added and it will serve more hot food options. Transport Minister Chee Hong Tat also announced other improvements at the airport's annual celebration.
As we experience more inclement weather and the impact of climate change, we must keep pace with our mitigation efforts. To deal with heat stress, apart from increasing the number of fans at our baggage handling areas, CAG will continue to invest efforts in trialling new and innovative ways to lower the ambient temperature at the baggage area.
A recent automation efforts such as self-check-ins and baggage handling have shortened queues and cut passenger processing time by up to 40%. But as the airport adopts more technology like passportless lanes as well as the passengers could still face issues, CAG will overcome these by working with its partners to train and upskill staff to spot these problems and resolve it quickly.
Another challenge we faced was the lack of travellers' familiarity with using our automated lanes, especially during the initial implementation. To resolve this, we monitored travellers' user experience and refined the user interface of our lanes to make it more user-friendly and intuitive for all travellers.
Well, for more on the career opportunities available in the sector and how companies can better attract and retain talent, I'm joined by Shantanu Gangakhedkar. He is the Senior Aviation Consultant of Frost Sullivan. Shantanu, welcome to the show. First, I wanted to put to you how you would describe the current state of employment in this sector.
The competition is quite fierce. So there is scarcity of workforce, not only in the region, but globally. There is scarcity of skilled workforce. There's increasing gap between the demand and supply of skilled workforce, especially in the aviation industry. So that's what the industry is currently grappling with, how to address that challenge of workforce scarcity. So that's where the industry is in terms of workforce.
So it's highly competitive. Can you be more specific about the type of competition, whether it's among countries in Asia or even globally, as you mentioned, when it comes to not only attracting such talent, by retaining it? Who are we up against?
Absolutely. So the competition is not only amongst other countries, but the competition is also with other adjacent industries, be it automotive industry or technical industry as well. So they are all competing for the same talent pool. And that's where the competition increases. We all know what happened a few years ago that has increased apprehension about new youths joining the aviation industry. So that is something which is happening. There is aging workforce. There's also the cost of education for the aviation industry is quite high and is increasing. So these factors are leading to that workforce scarcity, as I mentioned, and hence the competition is becoming even stronger to attract and retain the talent pool as well. So that is where we are.
Just clarify for me, what kind of jobs are considered under this aviation sector so that our audiences can sort of get an idea. And then tell me, how would you rank Singapore in terms of the viability of that career compared to other markets? What are some of the markers that we need to look at?
So first of all, what are the different job scopes that are out there? So you definitely have your pilots, then you have your technicians who are the licensed aircraft engineers, as we call them, LAEs. Then you have your ground staff who work on the air side. You have your cabin crew. You have air traffic controllers. You have airport staff. And you have other professions as well. So the industry is quite large. It starts right from the airlines, airports, manufacturers, MROs, which are the maintenance, repair, and overall organizations, to down to the airport operations as well. So the scope is quite wide when we say aviation industry. And there are in the region, not only Singapore but all other countries have understood this gap, this challenge, and including Singapore, they have developed a roadmap where they've identified which specific aspects of aviation the workforce needs to be attracted specifically and retained. So that is one thing that's happening. But Singapore, you mentioned specifically, in that case, Singapore sits in a much better position, I would say. It's because it is home to not only local but some international aviation training institutes, which is quite crucial. And then there is also a lot of industry options available. So you in Singapore itself, you have MROs, you have OEMs, you have suppliers, and of course, you have airlines and airports as well. So there's a lot of options available for a workforce to choose from. And of course, there is the high salary that Singapore is known to offer. So all of which Singapore is put in a much better position. But of course, it doesn't say that it needs to still work on retaining and attracting talent going forward.
Yeah, that seems to be the issue, isn't it? Even though we seem to be performing better and, as a choice aviation market compared to other places. But, break it down for us. Changi Airport hires thousands of people. So how many workers, how many numbers are we looking at here? And in what areas do we need more?
Sure. So if you look at Asia Pacific level, in the next 20 years, we're expecting about 250,000 new technicians and about 200,000 pilots. This is Asia Pacific. You break it down to Southeast Asia, we are expecting about more than 80,000 technicians and about more than 50,000 pilots. And if you bring this down to Singapore level, we may expect to see more than 4,000 to 5,000 new workforce requirement next year alone. So these are the numbers we are working with, which are huge. And the supply of the workforce for these is quite limited for multiple reasons. So to fill this gap, it's not only that we need to look at the local workforce, but we need to also look at workforce across the region as well to fill that gap.
Okay, very quickly, finally, you mentioned earlier that, Singapore does offer competitive salaries, but CAG will now be introducing things like new food, new rest options for their airside staff. Are these kind of things important when it comes to staff retention?
It is very important because as the younger generations, the youth plan or think about joining the aviation industry, one of the key apprehensions they have is the human intensive, the laborious task, especially when it is on the air side of the airport. So that is why CAG, including other airports, are looking at innovative solutions to reduce that laborious aspect, make it much more easier for them to operate, to work on the air side. There are also much more opportunities offered to upskill their skills. So it's not only about pay and career progression, which is very important, but there are other aspects also which will impact how many people are interested or keen on joining and continuing their career progression in the industry as well. So there are multiple aspects that need to be considered.
That was very insightful, and we thank you so much for your time. I've been speaking there with Shantanu Gangakhedkar, Senior Aviation Consultant of Frost & Sullivan. Thank you again for your time.